Alright, so good evening everyone. This is JC De Guzman of Equalist Analytics, and tonight I'm going to show you my analysis for these four stocks that I wasn't able to include in my video-based technical analysis last weekend, if my memory serves me right. So tonight we're going to hitch up these four stocks, namely AEV, Bloom, PCOR, and VLL. Okay, so we're going to tackle these four stocks, and let's find out if we see any chance of continuity, or if there's a possibility for their ascent or descent to be continued by the next trading day. Okay, so let's take a look at the first stock. So we have VLL, so Manny Villiers of Vista Land and Lifescapes Incorporated. So let's make sure we have the fresh data on our chart. So I've reloaded the VLL. Oh, by the way, one of the questions that I have read in our private clients forum this afternoon was or is how to plot the 10-day volume average. So first off, as you can see here, I already have the volume histogram. This one. Um, this histogram right below or underneath the candlestick chart. So this is the settings for this volume. As you can see here, you already see an open parentheses, number 10, and then closing parentheses. To change this one, you just have to click on this format icon that comes after the volume setting, and then you put in number 10. So you can play with this one. You can put in 5, 10, 15, 30, 50, whatever. But my preference is that I'm going to put in number 10 because I would like to uh, check if the stock's prevailing volume is moving above or below its 10-day volume average. So we're going to use a moving average for this one for the purpose of measuring that. So where's that part then? Do you see this shadow-like or mountain-like kind of chart here together with the volume histogram? So that's the moving average that we plotted on the settings of volume here. This one. So for today's trading, I can say that, or we can see that today's volume is fairing, or it managed to move above the 10-day volume average of VLL because the topmost part of today's volume is above the 10-day volume average's histogram. This one, it's above this line. Okay, so that's how you will know. That's the easiest way to find out if a certain volume of any stock is moving above its X number of volume average. So in this case, I'm using the 10-day volume average. Okay, so that's it. Let's talk about VLL. This afternoon, I published an article about what I saw on this stock probably about around after recess when trading resumes in the afternoon. When trading resumed in the afternoon, I got a chance to write that technical analysis, and I published that article in our private clients forum as well, so that those who are subscribed in our stock analysis request section will be notified. And I hope those who were notified, I hope you guys were able to read that report. Okay, now let's take a look. Um, where is VLL going from here? Where does it want to go from here? Well, take a look at this. Yesterday, or not yesterday, but last Friday, the midterm resistance at 8.0 was tested, and today it was retested. It made some attempts to go beyond 8.0 this today, but it retreated a bit and closed at 8.00. So we can say that 8.0 is a midterm resistance for VLL. but the immediate, not the immediate, but the I would consider the major resistance is actually positioned near 8.40. We can say between 8.40 to 8.5. Okay, and the immediate support is somewhere near 6.94, or you can round it up to 7.0 and all the way to 5.13. Okay, there's something noteworthy here. This one, the net foreign. So as the share price went up, the foreign investors did not have the appetite. That's so ironic. They did not have the appetite or the interest to ride on to the momentum of the ascent in price of VLL. So today they registered 150 million, almost 151 million worth of net foreign selling. So their appetite for selling intensified today as the local traders or local investors uh, successfully pushed the price of VLL to stay afloat near the 8.00 zone. Okay, this price is still moving above the 10-day simple moving average. Nonetheless, I would say that I prefer seeing this blue line, which is the 200-day simple moving average, to be moving below this yellow-orange line, which is the 50-day simple moving average. If and when that happens, and then I would say that VLL is right on track, is back on track when it comes to being bullish, both in the short term and long term horizon. But until then, for now, we can say that, yep, right now VLL is already moving inside the bullish territory, both in the short term and long term perspectives. But I would rather want to see this blue line again moving below this 50-day simple moving average. And when that happens, that's a confirmation of the bullish stance of of VLL investors both on the short term and long term perspective. MACD obviously will be bullish. It's in a bullish divergence from the signal line. So here's the thing. If you have VLL, continue holding your position. Continue holding your positions. If you followed my 10 SMA and MACD combo, I'm sure you would have caught the buy signal sometime in 2008, 2018 rather, somewhere around December 12, if I'm not mistaken. Let's check. December here. December 18. Okay. December 18, 2018. If you managed to enter a new position on VLL last December 18, 2018, because that was the time when the price went above the 10 SMA and MACD crossed above the signal line. Mind you, these two things must happen in the exact same day. Okay, in the exact same day, the price should go above the 10 SMA and MACD should cross above the signal line. This should not happen in two separate days. Okay, so now since then, the price has never gone below 10%. So if you have applied 10% risk tolerance on VLL since you entered a new position sometime in December 2018, for sure you have not been stopped out yet. Meaning to say, you still have VLL in your portfolio up until this morning. But if you panicked, if you panicked this morning when VLL hit an intraday low of 6.70, for sure you may have already sold a few tranches or a few shares, if not everything. If you already sold everything, then don't fret. It's not a bad thing. That's still a gain. It's still you still raked in your profits. You still raked in your profits. Okay. Now if you only sold a few shares, then well and good as well. If VLL continues to go up, then you can use the the money that you got from selling a few shares today or maybe the other day, last week, to buy up on VLL. But that's a conditional clause. That's a conditional statement. If if the bullish momentum continues, then you can try to buy up a few more shares on VLL. But let's say you don't, what if you don't have a position in VLL yet? Is it advisable to enter a new position tomorrow? Perhaps in the first 15 to 30 minutes of trading again? It's quite risky at this moment already. Okay, I believe in one of my posts last weekend I mentioned something about historical volatility and risk level. So let me show you how do I pull up the historical volatility histogram. So historical volatility, just click on this icon and then type in historical volatility and then click it. And then you will see here historical volatility. The default smoothing period, the default smoothing period is 10-day simple moving average. This one, 10. Don't change that. Keep it at 10. So right now, VLL today, VLL closed with uh, with a historical volatility of 139%. So for me, that's already an extremely high risk level. So how do I measure, if you will, how do I measure the risk level of a stock based on its historical volatility? How do I do that? Try to observe my old threads in the private clients forum, especially in the long-term investing section. Um, Try to open Ayala Corporation on the first page. You will see that there were days when I posted the risk level chart of that particular stock. For sure, you will see the um, risk level chart, and then near the bottom of that chart, I put the legend. When does it become a low risk stock? When does it become a moderate risk stock? When does it become a high risk stock? And when does it become an extremely high risk stock? So for me, if and when the historical volatility goes beyond 70, let's say 70 to 100, that's already a high risk stock. Meaning to say it fluctuated tremendously from its recent low. Okay. Um, Now, if the historical volatility is already above 100, then I consider that as an extremely high risk stock. You would understand it better when you see the chart here. Do you see the height of this candlestick last Friday and the height of this candlestick today? This explains why the stock is a high risk stock or an extremely high risk stock, meaning to say it fluctuates so erratically that if you are relatively new to stock trading or investing, it might cause you a heart attack, especially when after it hits an intraday high of 8.50, suddenly it went down to 6.70. So if you are relatively new to trading, then and you don't know what to do yet, especially if you don't have a risk management in place, there's a chance for you to have been stopped out this morning trading VLL. Okay, so that's on a separate video. I'm going to emphasize. I'm going to keep on pounding this topic about historical volatility and how I use it to measure the risk level of a particular chart. So on a separate video, I'm going to focus on that topic so I can give you maybe 5 to 10 examples of different charts that have various risk levels. Okay, but in this case, I just want to keep you posted about what I see on VLL. So you've already heard me speak about my recommendation if you have a position on VLL, and what you should do as well if you don't have a position in VLL, which I related or which I connected with the uh, risk level of this stock based on its historical volatility. So if you don't have a position in VLL and you are tempted to trade the VLL tomorrow, consider your risk level first. If you're a beginner, I would say stick with low risk to moderate risk stocks first. These are stocks that have a historical volatility below 70%. Okay, below 70%. VLL has 139% historical volatility, so definitely it's of course way above 70%. So newbie investors, for newbie investors, try to observe first on VLL. Use this one as a case study. Okay. Now for the experienced ones, if you would like to uh, buy a few tranches tomorrow, make sure you are quick to activate you are quick to catch your losses should VLL investors decide to do some massive profit taking near 8.00. Okay, so there's still that possibility that they will start their selling at near 8.00 just in case it will have a hard time reaching all the way up to 8.40 or 8.5. Okay, besides, foreign investors have already raked in their profits. They already realized their profits today. There you go. So let's take a look now. Take a look at the next stock, AEV. Let's say. Okay, let's plot the support. So these are the things that I'm clicking when I plot the support of a stock. Anyway, I already published a video last week on how to plot support and resistance levels, right? Okay, you should know this already by now. So resistance is situated near 68 pesos per share. That's the immediate resistance, and the major support is near 44 pesos. And then let's plot the. Okay, we can say this is a minor support area for AEV. That's 61.70, and another one here. So these lines 61.70 and 50.85 are precursors, meaning to say if the downtrend continues, AEV must break down below 61.70 and 50.85 before uh, the downtrend momentum escalates the probability of it hitting all the way 44.00. Okay, so these are the barriers before the price hits 44. So here, am I bullish or bearish on AEV? I'm neutral on AEV based on what I see on this chart because since let's see since when has it started to trade the range? Since the last week of January 2019, AEV has just has done nothing but trade the range between 61.70 to 67. So let's see if while the price is moving above the 10 SMA, let's see if it could sustain its position. Let's see if it will manage to stay afloat, stay above the 10-day simple moving average. I prefer to see a bigger volume because if AEV continues to stay above the 10-day simple moving average but volume does not keep up, then there's a tendency for the traders to you know get tired of making some attempts to keep the price above the 10-day simple moving average. They might just sell their position, which will lead to the immediate support at 61.70 to be retested, if not to be broken down. So that's it. I prefer to see a bigger volume in favor of in favor of a bullish price on AEV. For me, for me to say, or for the price to say above 61.70 with conviction. Okay, but if the volume will just continue to register flimsy volume for this entire week, then it's either it will just continue to move sideways to train the range, or it will break down below 61.70. And when that happens, when the price moves below 61.70, there's a possibility that I see another midterm support here, which is in confluence with the intersection between these simple moving averages right here, then another here, intersection. So it's at 56 pesos. Okay. So here, MACD wise, I do not see any formation of a bullish divergence with a signal line. It's still moving towards a bearish direction. MACD is still moving bearishly. Historical volatility. Okay, so this stock has a low risk stock, AEV. So if you are looking for a low risk stock, AEV is one of them because it has a volatility score of 49%. So anything below 50% volatility, I consider that as a low risk stock. So between 50% and 70%, that's a moderate risk stock. Above 70 up until 100, that's a high risk stock. Above 100, that's an extremely high risk stock. Just like what you saw a while back with VLL, an extremely high risk stock. Okay, so AEV is a low risk stock. But mind you, not because a stock has a low risk stock based on its historical volatility, it doesn't automatically mean that you should trade every stock that has a low risk level. Okay? It's just a guide when it comes to filtering which ones you should consider to trade most, especially if you are a newbie trader. Okay? Now let's take a look at the participation of the foreign investors on AEV. Okay, they still print the normal volume of net foreign fund, net foreign money. But today, AEV continued its 2 day streak of net foreign selling. Today net foreign selling totaled almost 11 million pesos. Well, that amount still not much um, compared to the amount of money that foreign investors have. Okay. Okay, remember what I mentioned a while back. I prefer to see a bigger volume for AEV to sustain its position above the 10-day simple moving average. If it continues to print flimsy volume levels, then there's a tendency, an extra high possibility for the price to inch closer to 61.70, which when that happens, it will just increase the possibility of that price to be broken down and continue its trend towards the next support at 56 pesos, somewhere here. Okay. If you have a position on AEV, as always, respect your trailing stop loss. Okay. Now let's take a look at this one. Okay, let's see what's the next stock that we have here. Oh, if you don't have a position yet on AEV and you would like to participate in trading this stock, I would say, let me see here. Just do a test buy. Okay, just do a test buy. But once it starts to get closer to 61.70, if it starts trading bearishly tomorrow, let's say it starts at the price lower than today's closing, I would say postpone your plan to participate in trading AEV. Do not enter a new position yet, especially if it draws closer to 61.70, because there's still a chance for it to go down further when that happens. Okay, so it's either you do a test buy or be on a wait and see mode. Okay, so that's for VLL. That's for VLL and AEV. Now let's move on to PCOR, Petron Corporation. So let's see where is the historical support level. Oh, it's quite far. So in this case, okay, in this case, I would like to plot a weekly chart version, a weekly version of this daily chart. Right now we're using the daily chart, so 1 day. I would like to use the weekly chart so that I don't have to navigate all the way towards the to the left, just so for me to locate its historical support. So I'm going to use the 1 week chart, so I don't have to scroll that much to the left. So here, okay. Now let's plot the support. There you go. And the resistance somewhere there. And then there's a midterm resistance here. A previous support, which is now acting as a resistance. There you go. So midterm resistance is positioned at 8.60 while the immediate support is at 5.54, meaning to say if PCOR won't show any sign of recovery, then there's a chance for the price to draw closer to 5.54 here. Okay, so let's bring it back to 1 day. Excuse me. So in the 1 day chart version, daily chart, there was a it was a significant bearish volume last Friday, actually for the entire week last week, and then it followed through. That bearish volume continued to show up this morning. This one, the candlestick is red, the volume is red, and it's way above its 10-day simple moving average. What does this mean to me then? To me, this means that there's a strong possibility for the downtrend to continue because the candlestick closed in red and it was a bearish volume, and that bearish volume is above its 10-day volume average, meaning to say um, those who have had PCOR um, might have convinced themselves that it was really about time to release some of their shares, some of their positions on PCOR. Okay, but if the price closed in red and the volume is below the 10-day volume average, then we can somehow say that when if we see that, we can somehow say that um, they're not that convinced to join the selling activity, the massive selling activity. But since the volume is above the 10-day volume average, then somehow PCOR investors are quite convinced that there's a necessity to sell their positions. Okay, foreign investors already did that proactively last Friday. They registered 110 million pesos worth of net foreign selling last Friday, and then they continued today with nearly 13 million or 12 million net foreign selling today. Not as big as last Friday's, but still it still supports the bearish conviction, my bearish conviction on PCOR. If you don't have PCOR, find something else. Find something else. For now, ignore PCOR for now. If you don't have this stock. Now, if you have PCOR, let's say if you have had PCOR since September last year, and you only have 10% risk on PCOR, you should not have PCOR by now. You should not have any PCOR shares by now. You should have already cut your losses as early as October last year. But what if you entered a position on PCOR last December 2018 and you apply 10% risk? Let's say you entered a position somewhere here on top of sometime in December 4, 2018. In December 4, 2018, PCOR closed at 8.50. If you're going to apply 10% risk, what's 10% below 8.50? So you should have already cut your losses when it hit. You should have already cut your losses in the third week of December. Okay? And from here, let me get the square or rectangle shape. Here, I already do not like how I already do not like the chart of PCOR here. Sometime in December last year. Okay. There were some poor attempts of recovery in December 2018 for PCOR, as manifested by this strong appetite of foreign investors to do nothing but to sell back then in December. Okay, especially in the last week of December, and it continued until 2019, especially in January. Okay, no chance for MACD to cross above the signal line anytime soon. And take a look at this one. What's the historical volatility of PCOR? It's 53%. It's a low risk stock. A while back you heard me say, not because a stock has a low risk level, it doesn't mean you should already buy that stock. So this is a perfect example of a stock that has a low risk level that is not, well, in my vocabulary, it's not time um, for me to trade on this particular stock. Okay, so this is an example. If you don't have PCOR yet, don't even do a test buy yet. Observe, continue observing. Okay. All right. Finally, let's have Bloom. Okay. So we're still on the 1 day on the daily chart. Bloom. Okay. Let me plot the resistance area. Okay. So the immediate resistance is at 13 pesos per share. Okay, 13. And after 13 pesos, that's somewhere at 14.8. That's the next resistance level. The immediate support is at 9.36. Major support is at 7.28. How likely is it for Bloomberry to cross above 13 pesos? Where there's a chance. There's a chance. How did I say so? Because even though today's volume is below the 10-day volume average of Bloom, that this towering volume that it registered last Friday in favor of the bullish price action is still give some extra points for the bulls to to possibly enter or not enter, but to continue their trend. You know, between bouncing away from 13 and continuing its uptrend, I am more in favor of uh, saying that Bloom might continue its trend above 13 pesos here, above 13 pesos, unless what? Unless Bloom's volume will start to dissipate tomorrow. So for example, if Bloom's volume tomorrow is below today's volume, then there's a chance for the bullish momentum to die down. And when that happens, traders might consider 13 pesos as a selling area. Okay? But unless and until that happens, there's a chance for Bloom to go above 13 pesos. MACD is bullish. Risk level is moderate risk because it's already above 50%. Well, that's just 1 point, one tick above the maximum score for the low risk level. Okay, so moderate risk, Bloom. It has a moderate risk level. So if you have Bloom, just keep on adjusting just keep on doing an upward adjustment on your trailing stop loss, and you should be a happy camper on Bloom. If you don't have Bloom, uh, remember this. Within the first 15 to 30 minutes of trading tomorrow, if you see a strong demand to buy more shares of Bloom, you can do a test buy. You can try to ride onto the momentum and see if there will be some continuity on its upward direction after 10 a.m. between 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Okay, be quick to activate your trailing stop loss if after 10 a.m. or between 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. you see some some weakening demands uh, to buy up on Bloom. Okay. Okay. Remember, do not fall in love with your data-driven forecast, because no matter how data-driven we are, no matter um, how much data we have as a basis or as basis for our bullish forecast, we should not fall in love with that kind of data-driven forecast. What's important here is that you know how to how to twist your trade setup when when the market decides to be a contrarian to your data-driven bullish forecast. Okay, so there you go. So my overall sentiment on Bloom is bullish. Okay. So I do hope I was able to help you make some data-driven decisions on AEV, VLL, PCOR, and Bloom. Alright, so again, my name is JC De Guzman. I'm going to publish this one on the videos tab, and I'm going to, if you have some stock-specific questions, particularly on these four stocks, please check if there's an existing thread already in our in the different sections of our forum. If there's an existing thread already, I suggest that you bump that thread and then post your question there. If there is no existing thread about Bloom, about VLL, AEV, or PCOR, feel free to create a new topic, and then I'll get back to you soon. Again, my name is JC De Guzman, and from Equalist Analytics, have a good day, or have a good evening rather. Thank you.